7 p.m., and I call the September 11th, 2023 School Board meeting to order. To highlight the importance of remembering the tragic event of September 11th, 2001, and the impact it had on our nation, I would like to take a moment of silence to honor the victims of the 9/11 terrorist attacks and to remind the school district community of the importance of educating future generations about the significance of this historical event and the values of resilience, unity, and compassion. Okay, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Board Clerk Maggie Smith, would you please call the roll?
Chris Lau.
Here.
Lindsay Need. Here. Maggie Smith. Here. Bridget Todd Robbins.
Here.
Barb Winch.
Here.
Crystal Lee. Here. Jennifer Deek.
Here.
Khadijah Islam.
Excused. All right, with 6 of the 7 board members present, I declare a quorum. I note that the agenda has been posted, distributed, and sent to the local media. With this in mind, are there any changes to this agenda? I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as published.
So moved.
Chris has moved.
Second.
Lindsay has second to approve the agenda as published. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to approve the agenda as published, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. The motion to approve the published agenda has passed. And we do not have public participation this evening. All right, moving on to recognition and thank yous. Dr. Mueller.
I have one recognition this evening. Many of our schools work very hard on what we call PBIS and that's our behavioral systems within our buildings. And I'm just really happy to share this evening that Sand Lake and the Holmen Public Preschool are receiving their bronze level award certificate from the Department of Public of Instruction, along with the Wisconsin Response to Intervention Center from the past year. And really it's for their progress in expanding, refining, and implementing systems of support for our students. So congratulations to all of them that were a part of that hard work.
Okay, thank you. We're moving on to reports and discussion. Item 8.1. Dr. Mueller will now lead a presentation highlighting updates of the 2022 referendum projects. This item is for report only and will not appear on a consent agenda.
Okay, team. And the rest of the audience? Oh. All right, as they make their way, well, Rachel, we'll mention who, definitely. Yeah, sure. So this evening, we're here to give an update, and the update is from our referendum that was on November 8th of 2022. And with me, I have many people that have been very integral in a lot of the work that's being done, and they'll be helping with the presentation. But sitting next to me is Michelle Mayland.
Yep.
In that, I always want to make sure I say, and with HSR, and she's been one of the lead architects in the project, and we've had a long relationship with them in lots of our projects. And then also, Nina Swanson is our principal at Viking Elementary and is leading a design team with Michelle and her team. And Sue Eitland, also at Viking Elementary, helping with that. And then Chad Brando, obviously our facility services director, who has been very integral in a lot of the work, knowing the ins and outs of the building. And then Ryan Vogler has led his design team at his high school, or middle school, sorry, at his building at the middle school along, and he'll share more about that. And then Rachel Favre has also, she's over there. She had much work done on the outside of her building, which Mr. Brando has helped with in that, and she's also here this evening, so.
I can go stand by her if you want me to.
Make her feel included.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to share this evening is just kind of a timeline. People are kind of starting to ask, when is everything going to start happening in that? Well, what they don't know, there's been a lot happening, and you'll start to see that through the presentation this evening behind the scenes work. But to start off, Evergreen Elementary has had a lot of building envelope done over the summer, and so they'll be sharing more about that. And they're going to kick off here this week, actually, their Evergreen remodel design. So they'll have a team that's going to be working on the remodel that they'll be working together with the design and remodel of Evergreen. Viking is 75% along in their design of their remodel. And really, theirs was just a remodel and site civil plan. The middle school drawings are complete here coming up in another couple weeks. So you'll get to see some renderings this evening. And the middle school drawings will go out for bid on September 28th. So we're really starting to move along. And then October is when the Viking design plans will be complete. With later, at the end of October, they'll be going out to bid. And then you can see Evergreen. So you can see we have multiple projects going on at once. In Evergreen, then design should be about 50% in November, with that being complete this February, this next year. We also have in the background playground designs going on. In hoping, so Viking and Evergreen will happen as the projects are happening to make sure that it all coordinates correctly. But then Sand Lake and Prairie View also have playground designs going on, and the deadline that we're working towards is November 15th on those. Now, the question that a lot of people say, when does construction begin? In that, there's some things that we can start on that won't affect the learning environment, or very minimally affect the learning environment during the school year in the springtime. But basically, as soon as all the students and staff are out on that last day of school, you'll be seeing people waiting just to get right at it. And what will happen first is the middle school, you will see an actual demolition of that, west wing, or they call it sixth grade wing, and that happening this summer. The middle school in Viking, all that construction will start this summer, but it will take place over a 2-year period of time in that. It'll be what we call phased projects. And then Evergreen is slated, and we'll have to see how the design goes, and that is slated to also. So basically, the school year, we're holding tight because there's going to be a lot of construction starting in the summer here time. So that's our timeline. Any questions? Any questions on timeline? Okay, now I'm going to turn it over to Chad Brando and Michelle. Yep. If you want to sit down here, and then you just click.
Okay. I will click for you.
Excellent. If I do the cursor on this, does it move around on the screen so you can see it, or?
Yeah.
Okay,
ish.
super. Don't know if you can see that on yours or not if I do that. Is that true or not?
Maybe. Yeah. Should.
I'm just trying to move the cursor so I can point to things if
Yeah.
necessary.
We can see it.
Okay. So as you remember, our focus areas are on the far hand right side there. We had we started off with 3 roofs, 2 for the gymnasiums and 1 for the 1992 classroom edition. We did metal paneling, masonry repairs, and window and door replacement. Yeah, get this. Oh, I can do it right here. I'm sorry. So we changed the color a little bit, thanks to Rachel and some other folks that wanted to lighten the school up a little bit. So you see the whitish panels now. I think they're almond, to be correct. These panels are above the doorways, and that goes throughout the entire building, going to the back, the sides. So that's above the doorways. We stayed with forest green for the window sections. This is really hard to see all they did with like the masonry work, but they went through every square inch of all that masonry work, and they replaced block if needed to be, and they looked at all the what's that?
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. And they checked all the construction joints, and they would drill them out, and they would grind them out, and then they re-tuck point, and then they did a surface cleaning. So it's hard to tell by this photo, But if you're out there, you can definitely tell that it brightened the building up, and it really added to the value. There we go.
There you go, roofs.
So the next slide shows the roofs. The part that has the green panel on there right now that you see the gentleman standing, that is some more of that forest green paneling, and that section you're seeing is where the gymnasiums would extend past the two roof lines that you can see down below. When they did the paneling, what they did was they took the old paneling off, they took it all the way down to the masonry. They would fix that masonry if needed. They put new insulation on, new vapor barrier, and they put new metal on. Is this my last slide?
I think that's your last slide.
Nope. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I got some more pictures on there.
More pictures,
So, yeah,
yep.
go over here. We've had approximately 5 new doors that were installed, a set of 3 on the north end of the building going out to the playground. We have 2 banks of 3 doors. They did the outside set of 3 doors are brand new. This set here is on the northwest gym, I guess you would call that corner right there. So that's a brand new set of double doors. There were other doors that they refurbished throughout the entire facility. And the bottom picture, I know it's hard to see, but that is, this door right here is right here in this corner. So that wall you see right here, that's that fiber cement paneling that we talked about earlier when I shared the bid tallies with you. So that's on that wall, and then it wraps around the corner going towards the cafeteria, back door to the cafeteria. They're approximately, but that side's almost done. So what we're waiting on right now is they're almost done. What we're waiting on is that top roof cap that will go around the parapet. And that metal was supposed to be delivered today. They expect to be done with the entire project next week. And the other add-on I have for this is that we did also change the lighting that was associated with the metal paneling outside, so we didn't have all this new insulation, all this new panel, and then we put the old lights back on, so we have LED lights going through all this. And that's all I got on that, unless you have any questions. I think I got
The
more
door
slides coming up.
replacement, those are all exterior doors?
What's that?
The doors that were replaced, were they all exterior?
Yes, they were all exterior, and I forgot to mention, because they blend into the building so well, we had 14 window replacements, total replacements. And then we had about 3 or 4 different panels of glass that we replaced because it was foggy. So that's a big part of this whole project too. Again, it just kind of fell into the background because you see the windows, but we got the new windows.
Okay.
Yeah. I get to go right into the Viking.
You do? You gonna do Viking?
I got Viking. I got the first slide.
You got the first slide, okay.
And I'm telling you right now, so right now you only have one more slide and then you can get rid of me for a while. I'm sorry, this is not going to be as nice as slides that you're going to see coming, but you got some really cool slides coming up. So this is a little difficult to talk about, but we're talking the site civil here for Viking. So just to get your bearings real quick.
So if you need some help, I can help.
Yes, oh, thank you. So right here is Viking proper, that's Viking Elementary. And this is the front of the building, right here is the existing playground in this light green. Our 2 existing parking lots and the center area that goes out from the front of the school. So what you're seeing here in different color is, on our current concept, we are changing what we have right now for these 2 parking lots. This one will be staff, parent, student drop-off on the left over here, and the buses will be over on this side. We're doing a flip-flop to them. And there's more to come on this. You're going to hear more from me, but if you can just hold off, it might make sense by the time I'm done. The center brown area right here is what we got. That's going to be a courtyard concept, so that when the students come out of the school, they can come right out the center of school. No vehicle access through here whatsoever. They'll be able to come out, be nice and safe. They'll be able to be seen from the front office, come right out to the playground like they have been. Eventually, when it's done, this parking lot over here for the buses, when it's not pick up or drop off time, this would be kind of like it is over here. We'll have some basketball hoops over here. They can use this asphalt for playground also. So it really is a nice flip-flop. On the top side of this, what you're seeing there is Roberts Street, which is there right now, and that's that turnaround that you're used to seeing. This is the area where it's blocked off with a gate. The parents student drop-off, if you will. When they come in Roberts Road now, they would come in this direction here, come around, park if they're staff, so on and so forth. If they're doing a drop-off, come around, come up to the front of the school, drop off, come back out, and go out Roberts. There will be a gate. I'm gonna stay on top of this picture, but I can go over to this one.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a little gate over here, kind of like it's down here right now for the, to block off that parking lot. We'll have a gate up here to block off the transportation and maintenance area. Specifically, the reasoning behind that is to stop the flow that comes off of Highway D when they're trying to cut through there. We put speed bumps down this year for the first time, and they're still coming through 35 miles an hour. So I hope that all makes sense. If we come back over here, this is all existing right here. This would be some extra parking added for staff, as you can see over here. The concept is to take this down on the backside here, take this down to a true single lane road with a small gate, kind of like what we have behind the high school back by the FAC right now. They're just little gates. Shut that off. That will not be for through traffic. Staff would come back here. They could park back here. Part of the issue is right now, if you're not up to our current, what we do for the process is we have Reinhardt comes through here with a semi. You have cars in the way. They got to come around here and do this and so on and so forth. So this would be staff, no through. And then I'm going to go over here real quick. This is the new concept road coming from Highway D that brings us back to our existing receiving area that we already have back there. There'd be a turnaround. It gets kind of light in here, I know, I apologize. This would be a turnaround. This would be for Reinhardt, and we would turn the trash receptacles around. Harders would come in this direction here, pick up the trash. We could have contractors come in this way. The maintenance folks would come in here. There'll be two little outlets right here that, as far as transportation goes, they can come off of D and they can come back into the bus parking lot. They could actually leave out of here and come back through. I think the one thing that I forgot right off the top is that certain time in the morning, that's, I should have it, 7 o'clock or so. What we'll do is we'll open this gate up so that we can get these buses out to the areas where they're picking up students. And then we'll close that gate back up so that we don't have to have all the buses leave early in the morning and go out on D, possibly. So that's always going to be a little factor that we can do where we can just open that gate up. They can leave out of here real quick before we get any flow coming in that would be kind of in their way, if you will. And did I forget anything?
No, I think
you sure?
I think that is about it.
Quest?
Yeah, I guess any questions? It was decided that new road coming in off of D was really just going to be wide enough for, two-way traffic, but not any wider, with a smaller gravel shoulder. So not to promote parking along there for the use from the village, fields and whatnot, but if they should choose to park along there, it'll slow them down enough that it'll really, if they park one side, it'll kind of turn into one-way traffic, but not really providing parking for
So
them.
all these parking changes are planned for next summer as well? Or is this happening before that?
I'm not sure on the phasing of Viking.
I can
Yeah.
talk. So Viking, we're not complete with our plans yet, so we're at like 75%. So this is where we're at right now with the plan. There could be some tweaks and changes yet. We're still in discussion on some of it, but we just wanted to give you a peek. And if something kind of was alerting to you, like, whoa, just, input's always valued too at this point, so.
No, I think it's nice to have all those different sections separated.
Yeah, it should be a lot safer, hopefully, not having as much cross traffic, as well as kids going to the multiple playgrounds where you've got 4K crossing bus traffic, like now they'll all be in one area. As Chad said, a lot easier to supervise and kind of keep tabs on all the little ones.
That's another reason for that gate down here that I said that it's going to be a single access here. And then, of course, this gate here, we're going to have training is going to have to be involved.
A lot of confused parents.
Because we
first
don't
day.
want to have people coming off of Highway D here either, thinking that they can go to the back of the school. I'm sure it's going to happen, but I think over time,
Did you have a question?
Are there still sports fields back there where that new
Yes.
road is going?
Yep,
So
we,
will there be a fence along there? I just thinking out loud.
we hadn't discussed a fence, and we're kind of leaving it as it is today. I guess, what would be the purpose of the fence, or?
I'm just thinking
wondering.
for safety reasons.
So kids aren't running out on the road.
At a different elevation,
It is, there is a slight slope,
Oh.
so the play fields will be down
Oh.
as
Okay.
they are today, yeah.
like they are today, but
Okay.
That there'd be earthworks in place to move it, because that's a pretty, D is at a much higher level than.
Right in this area here is, no doubt, since you know the area, we got to,
There's gonna be some fill going on.
right in this
and-
area right
yeah.
here, there definitely have to be some fill.
Private residence there in the corner too.
Any changes or considerations that would affect like students walking or biking?
No, I believe, it's kind of hard to see on here, but the bike path that comes like through Deerwood Park, I believe, kind of comes up along the, now bus entry, and there'll be a crosswalk there. There should be very minimal traffic by the time the buses come from this direction. But also sidewalks are planned as appropriate.
It will
to
actually
get
be nicer because right now
Yeah.
kids are walking and biking up when the cars are dropping off. So now the cars will be flip flopped, and hopefully kids that come from that area, then there'll be a little bit less traffic. I mean, they still could come the other way, but I think most are still going to probably come up through the Deerwood way.
So definitely something we're considering and making sure we have a plan for.
And Dan Garrett from Transportation has been fully versed on this. He's been in the meetings and definitely talked about the sidewalks. So
Okay.
I think it's
There's a sidewalk on D.
to you, Nina.
All right, so the next few slides, sorry, like Dr. Mueller said, just kind of our 75% plans, but I just want to thank, we had a lot of Viking staff input. We had a user group, so we had a nice range of librarian, music, special ed. Sue had some 4K early childhood reps, so it's just been a really nice process with a lot of good input. So this is our first floor here. Yep. And what's kind of been flip-flopped is our kitchen now is on this side, and so like kitchen and music are flipping, which will be really nice because then when you walk in, you can see all the tables. We won't have to move those, so we'll just have like a nice little commons area. Right now, they're having to walk with their food tray into the gym, so that will be really nice to just have it all right there. And this area back here, you can see there's going to be like a little built-in platform, so it'll be like our multi-purpose room, and it can still be used as a gym. We're going to keep the basketball hoops and things like that. But it'll just be a nice place to have concerts, and we'll keep the bleachers set up there at all times and with like a screen back there. What's really neat on our first floor is we're going to kind of just have all of our early childhood, a couple 4K classrooms and kindergartens. You can see that all on the main floor there. And the office won't be touched as that's been newer built. And then our art rooms and stuff are also staying pretty similar. So the first floor is going to have a really similar layout with the classrooms and things like that. Just with the addition of the tables and the platform. So, any questions on the first floor? Okay. Did I get everything?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, it'll make more sense once we get to the second floor. But around this center core, we're really creating a hub, sort of that center core to the building, and creating a connection to the second floor. So opening it up, that new big grand staircase that you saw, kind of taking out the library, moving the library up towards the front of the school and creating a nice, like I said, a connection between the commons below and the new education space above. So the second floor will look completely different.
Yeah, that's going to be brand new, which we're excited about. And it'll mirror each other, which is nice. You can see on this side, there's going to be first, second, third. And in the middle, we'll have like a STEM lab. So that'll just be a nice kind of like multi-purpose room where teachers can take small groups or kids can do some other work in there. And the other side is 4-5, along with our student services. So they can all be in one little spot there with our guidance counselors, school psychologists, OT. So it's just really designed on that floor to be a really nice flow of traffic. You can see the bathrooms and everything will be up on that second floor.
Any questions? Okay. So now we've done a few interior renderings to this always is fun to look at, give you an idea of what the space is actually going to look like. So the first big one you see here on the left is down on the first floor in that new commons area. I talked about really seeing the big volume that we'll create there versus, kind of how you walk into it today. And really opening up that connection into the multi-purpose space versus the little hallway you walk through with the rooms on either side. So really trying to maximize that space and create that connection between all the different learning spaces within the building. And so then on the right, upper right is kind of looking back the same way. The kitchen is over in the corner. You can kind of see it, again, improving the flow between eating and sort of that daily process. And then lower right corner, coming up the stairs, there will be a nice little breakout space at the top of the stairs, some nice soft seating, giving a good place for kids to wait if they're moving between classrooms, going up and down, anything like that, and some nice display areas for art and other things. Going into more of the educational areas, we, through the design process, selected 3 different colors to kind of represent each pod or area. Yellow being down on the first floor with the primary 4K, as Nina mentioned, kind of getting then a view of their classroom with bathrooms. All the bathrooms in the lower level will be updated to be ADA accessible, large enough, and then sink and new casework cabinets through there, as well as new cubbies in the hallways. So instead of the hooks and boot rack, we'll have individual cubbies for each of the students. And then looking at an entry into one half, if you kind of remember the plan, they were mirrored on either side with blue for boys and green for girls. And it'll be the same on the other side. So hopefully we find connecting color and wayfinding really helps, especially the little ones, figure out where they're going, maybe before they can even read. So. Again, another kind of blow up of some accent tile we have on the outside. So for the bathrooms, what we like to do, they don't have doors. They're open, flowing, easier to supervise, less surfaces to touch for little hands. There's also sinks outside of the bathroom. So we do have some inside, but some outside. Just make sure that the hand washing gets done appropriately. And then lots of glass between a lot of the places, just trying to really open it up and create that connection between all the learning spaces. You get a view of the STEM lab, as Nina mentioned. Again, just a really fun spot, starting here at Viking, but this will then be collaborative between all the elementary schools, Evergreen, Sand Lake, and Prairie View, to have this concept of a STEM lab. Yet to come as sort of what that means. It's probably a lot of flexible furniture, really, as Nina said, giving the teachers the opportunity of just another learning space. Maybe they can do it by grade, a couple teachers coming together, just kind of opening up different opportunities. So, and then the lower right is an example of the special ed classroom. So again, really trying to integrate those, make them easy access to all grades, really inclusive and very similar to a general ed classroom. Okay, any other questions? Comments?
Awesome, thank you.
Okay.
Get ready for it. Got another cool slide for you.
All right, are you ready for the middle school? Okay.
All right, I get the other cool slide. Just setting the stage, setting the stage for the people following me. This is just to let you know what the measures were. I'm sure a lot of you have seen this document before. I'm just going to highlight a few things that will not most likely show up in our slides coming up. So we're really excited about our HVAC system. We're going to get a new chiller. And we're going to get 4 new boilers. That makes me very excited. That should make you excited too, because they're going to be very energy efficient. We'll get new air handlers, exhaust fans, fire alarm, sprinkler upgrades. The electrical upgrades throughout the entire school will be tremendous. Switchboards, panels, breakers, wiring, receptacles, so on and so forth. We're going to get a new lighting system. It will be programmable. It's going to be LED. It's going to be super efficient. We're very, very excited about that. As far as the emergency generator, don't think that made the photos, but I don't know for sure. But we're going to get the emergency generator. That is primarily for our district server. That is housed at the middle school, so it's going to be able to take care of that district server. It's also going to be able to take care of a boiler or two so that we can keep, so that if there's something happens, we can keep that heat going, at least to keep the school from freezing. We're going to have the kitchen cooler and freezer on that generator and a few outlets inside the kitchen. So we're really excited about the generator. And I know Ryan is really excited because they said that we can get a roof replacement on Gym B. So I don't think that's going to make the photos coming up here. So that's just a little shot of that, but that whole thing is getting done basically in one way, shape, or form. So I just want to point out a few things and set the stage for some really cool slides coming up. Thank you for your time. Are there any questions? I apologize.
Can I ask a quick one? I
Sure,
might see
sure.
it maybe mentioned a little bit, and maybe it just happens inherently. This is not my area of expertise. I know there's some chatter about like air quality through DPI and looking at that more intently post-COVID times. Is that sort of happening through a lot of the upgrades that are occurring, or is it something that's still being discussed in like air quality radon, all those
It will
pieces?
be, yes, it will be handled with most of the stuff that you see there. Again, we're going to have the exhaust fans. They're going to be all taken care of. When you have the new air handlers, they're going to be more efficient. They're going to be able to, we're going to be able to have the filtering system as up to date as possible. We have these ERVUs, they're energy recovery type units, which will be saving. What they do is they capture the air that's going to leave the building through exhaust fans or through other means that's still might be warm or it still might be chilled, depending on what time of year you're in, and they'll bring those back into the system. But everything is going to be up to date, brand new, and basically it's going to have a lot to do with what filters we run through, all of that type of stuff. So we do a lot with filters,
Okay,
just like you would do like inside your home.
gotcha.
So that's where that's all going to come from.
We're also updating the controls, so there'll be more digital controls, so it'll be more easily monitored, so that the building as a whole won't have as many hot or cold spots, or really, I think Chad mentioned, making sure the air is flowing and the air is exchanging at the rate that it should be. Sure. So.
To include a gymnasium.
Yep.
Any further questions?
I feel like I should allow everybody a stretch break. Like, okay, let's stand up, but we're gonna keep going through here. So just thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight to talk with you about the building project. It's also really cool to come here as a middle school principal and see Krista Lee sitting up there. So, hi, I hope you're doing well, and it's great to see you up there.
Yeah, I'm doing good. You caught me off guard. I was drinking my water.
But just to start out with a couple of thank yous, would not be able to be here without the support of the community supporting our referendum. And so just thank you very much to our community, unbelievably supportive of our schools. And so it's great to be able to sit here and be going through this work because of that. Also to our HMS design team, they've spent a lot of time looking at plans, stretching themselves uncomfortably because they maybe don't know what they're looking at, but asking great questions. And if they don't know the answer, seeking to understand. Going back to their colleagues and explaining to them the process and getting feedback from them so that we could have the design that we do. Also, just to our district staff, Chad was just up here right now, but I can't undersell the work that he's done. He's done an amazing job just talking about the things that we need and making sure that we have that with our boilers, our air handlers. So thank you for that. And to Nexus and Jared, who's helped guide all of this. And then a huge thank you to Michelle and Lexi. They have taken so much feedback, and they're always kind and willing to look at it and redesign. So I think we have a great project, and looking forward to presenting some of that with you tonight. So what you're seeing up here right now is kind of what was presented to you before a couple of months ago. But you will see kind of up here, if you want to run the mouse,
Yeah, I
up
can see
here, that is the first floor area that will not be torn down but will be remodeled. That area right now is some of our 6th grade classrooms as well as world cultures and foreign language. Along with our alt ed area. That is going to be changed up and turned into some ML classrooms, as well as our staff lounge will be relocated up there. Some great updates in there, allowing it to be more of a planning center for our teachers, having materials there for them to use, and just being designed to better suit their needs. And then up in the corner is where we will move our alt ed, as well as then having some of our special education programming that is up in those areas, and then our support services with SEL and at risk. So the ability to have all of these areas remodeled and right in that one location is going to be extremely helpful. Then as we move down into the lighter green area, this is where the remodel of the 6th grade area will be. That entire section of that 6th grade area will be torn down and will be built back up as a 2-story area. That will allow us to house our 6th and 7th grade, both in one location, each on a floor. Within that area, you will see the larger classrooms are our science classrooms. Those classrooms were strategically put in those areas so that they're able to share a storage space, but also all 3 rooms connect so that if they're carrying material, supplies, or things like that, they can very easily do that. Within our wings, we also have inclusion special education classrooms that have offices, they have small group areas in order to suit the needs of our students that might need more assistance through their IEPs. And then finally, we also have areas in that section that are for our math, ELA, and social studies classrooms. You can kind of see in the drawings up there, all of them have casework that has been designed, gotten feedback from our staff about what that should look like. And so that in these areas, flow is there, but all looking very much the same in their classrooms. But some of them adjusted, for example, in our ELA classrooms, having more bookshelves for more books. So just some little things that were great feedback that was brought by Michelle and Lexi and then given by our staff too. Did I miss anything on those two?
No, I think that's good. I will mention sort of one overarching, even in some of these white areas, as Ryan alluded to, pretty much all of the building will more or less be touched. So we are doing flooring throughout, paint for the most part, and new ceilings, lighting, as Chad had mentioned. So even though, like in the existing current 6th grade area, these rooms aren't changing size, they're changing function, but they will feel like brand new rooms. They'll get new cabinets, everything will match and be cohesive with the new construction as well. One area we did push the teachers on a little bit was to expand their thinking of how to use corridor space. So right now corridors are corridors, they're used for walking. So in the new construction, the hallways are a little bit wider, and you'll see some of this when we get to some of the renderings. But we've introduced some breakout spaces, small group areas for students to work outside of the classroom. Kind of starts giving them some responsibility as they mature to.
Boy, that sounds bad for the middle school principal, huh? Responsibility is not one of your.
Not one of your contacts. They were very hesitant to this about, well, I don't know how I'm going to use that space. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. But we toured some other facilities and really looked at kind of how those teachers were using it. And I think they'll grow into really learning how to expand how they're teaching and give students opportunities to learn in different areas. As well, the lockers are a little bit shorter. So they're 5 feet high, a little bit deeper, wider, to accommodate some backpacks and coats. And then there, as we'll see in the rendering, there's glass above between, similar to what we're doing at Viking, but between the hallway and the corridor. It's up at 5 feet, so, I'm only 5 feet tall, so it should be above most people's heads, but does allow for that connection between the two spaces, a little bit of supervision if there are students working out in that space, but that was definitely a a little push out of the comfort zone, but I think it'll be good in the end. So
Yeah. Thank you.
you're welcome. So you're moving to the core.
Yes.
Okay.
So then moving into the core area, one of the things that is kind of a behind the scenes change that I think is going to make things really, really smooth is our receiving room is moving to that location that
Come
is
here.
right there, which is really going to make a difference. It's centrally located. It's going to be much easier for deliveries, and it's going to be just much easier for overall use and work within our building. Then above that is where you're going to see our new serving area. This is where the LMC is right now. Our kitchen and serving area is right in that area. And that then leads up to our cafeteria, which is above that. In our cafeteria, you will see the area in the upper left there. That is a stage. Really happy with the way that has turned out, working with audio architects and with lighting and sound that will make this a really good area for our kids to be able to have performances and just incorporate that into the programming and the systems that we have right now, along with the lighting and the ability to program things. Really excited for some of those opportunities for our kids. Also, then you'll see connected to our cafeteria is what is an LGI. This will be, I talked about it before, but an area where we can take entire grade levels to have a presentation, but can also take groups of classes to work at tables. So if teachers want to go in and the entire social studies team wants to go in and work together on something, that's available for them. So really trying to introduce, again, that flexibility of spaces and the ability to use things for multiple purposes within the building. And I think that is an area that our staff are really going to start to find helpful as they're wanting to work as an entire grade level and be flexible. Then above that, you'll see where our LMC is. Our LMC is located currently where our cafeteria is right now. Really like that. It opens the front of that up and allows for our LMC to be right in that area, very accessible to our students coming right down from that hallway. It still has our IT department, but a little bit more room for our IT department in there. And then within that room is also a small group flexible space for our LMC. Then just above that is another change where our student services is going to be located in the central part of the building. So instead of being entirely down on the south end of the building, it's going to be located centrally. I think that's going to be excellent for our students and for our student services staff to be able to service our students. And then just to the right of that will be the office. That really will not change at all because that was just newly remodeled and is functioning very well.
I will say one change we are going to make is if you remember walking into the middle school, there's like 4 sets of doors right there in that angled wall. So we're going to take all of the doors out, replace a couple windows, but really cut that back to really open up that hallway right there, kind of that connecting piece from the main entry, get rid of a few of those doors. One benefit of adding a sprinkler system to the entire building is we are able to eliminate a few of the doors in strategic places, which will really help with wayfinding through the building and a few other elements as we get there, as well as the opportunity to open up a few of the stairways going up and down between the 2 floors. So, one more thing I forgot. Before we get too far away from the new construction, as you'll notice, there will be no ramps. So that is one huge improvement. The new addition will be set at the same level as the rest of the school. So you won't have winding ramps going down and around to get into the new construction, as well as filling in the existing Performing Arts Center to be Commons area. So.
The other thing that I forgot to mention in that 6th grade area, as well as outside of our cafeteria, is that also has areas for single-user restrooms as well, located on the 1st floor and on the 2nd floor, as well as right in that cafeteria area. And then a remodel of the bathroom by the cafeteria area, and just creating that and making that a little bit more open as well.
Yep.
That green area where the cursor is right now will be the new location for our girls' locker room. So that area will be there right up in front of Gym A. So that will be an excellent change as well. That's been done so that our entire music department is able to be located in one area. And so you'll see our band, choir, and orchestra all in that one area, and then the ability to have their practice rooms all in that area as well. Knowing that those rooms are back to back, can you explain what the wall?
Sure. So we've added a few additional walls in between band, choir, and orchestra to help with some of the sound transfer between the two spaces, as well as in choir and orchestra using a bit higher noise reduction rated ceiling tile like we have here, as well as adding some acoustical treatment to the band room as well to help kind of manage the sound and what's going on between the different spaces. So.
If you go up to the top, the lighter purple area, that is where the new fitness center will be, as well as our health classroom, and then a flex classroom that gets used by many different teachers throughout the day. Those are all currently located in the basement, and so no longer will students have to go down to the basement and to access those classrooms. That will be right in the middle, centrally located in the building. Kind of the last major change then is down on the south end of our building. You will see where we are right now. I think for me, it's one of the most exciting changes.
I'm excited too.
Is that our new entry into the building will be much, much wider when students come in the morning as well as when they exit in the afternoon. Not only that, but this will then create one long, straight corridor in the middle school, which we don't have right now. And so families, visitors will be able to come in and we'll be able to see down and walk straight down the corridor right into our cafeteria. And that will just make for so much better flow for students, for staff, community, and events when they are coming into the building. Also on that end right now, there are currently 2 doors, and so it's going to move to 2 sets of 2 doors, so having much more ability to enter and exit into the building. Just below that, you will then see that we have, down in that area where we currently have some of our special education programming, but that area is being updated for students that we work with in our ID and autism program, as well as programming with our other services, OT, AT, and APE. So allowing for that, as well as storage. We have some additional storage that is available for our co-curriculars and for outdoor activities such as PE.
I think, and then finally in this little yellow, tech ed, the front side of the tech ed space will get an update, really just trying to clean it out, refresh it, do some new furnishings and new electrical power to really bring in some updated technology, maybe get into some, CNC, all kinds of, the sky's the limit, but we're making it a flexible, fun space for learning for them.
And I'm glad you said that, electrical and power. We will just be excited, and I'm not saying this to be funny, but all outlets are going to be working and are going to be set up on breakers that can maintain and hold the power that's needed. So it's a very small thing, but we're very excited to have that happening.
And so right before we move up to the second floor, I'll note that if you're where the cursor is now is the current school store. So we're moving it over to where the gallery space is. And we have since distributed the gallery and given some other areas to display artwork. But the school store will now live on this corner, which is really nice along that main hallway that Ryan mentioned. We added some glass into it, similar to kind of the high school, but at a smaller scale, but really make it visible to all your staff, students, and visitors. So.
Just real quick then, the last thing is that you'll see in the upper right-hand corner is where one of our new business labs will be. And then right below that is where we will have some of our support services for students with different level needs in the areas of math, reading, and writing. So those supports all being located in one area and having classrooms for them to be working in.
All right, so second floor, as Ryan mentioned, the 7th grade in the new addition will be a mirror copy of the 6th grade. Layout same with the science rooms connected along the side. I will mention there was this little L-shaped white space in the middle, so that is an interior courtyard. It won't be accessible, it'll just have rock in it. But what it allows is natural light into those interior rooms, as well as some light into the LGI space. as Ryan mentioned in a little bit, kind of creating that light all the way through the library out to Main Street. Otherwise, on the second floor, while rooms are not really changing, as this half of the second floor was done in 2005, all of the classrooms will get new countertops, cabinets, the science rooms will get new casework, and then this little pink square right here is really exciting for the 8th grade. So this will house all of the 8th grade, and that is their collaboration space. So while they're not getting a nice, new floor, I think this will be a great breakout space for them. And how we're creating that is actually below it on the backside of Gym B, as we'll take out the stage that is there, lower that down, which will provide better PE storage for the gym coming off of Gym B. If you can think, kind of goes back and around. Will now all be at one level, so they don't have to go up and down. But then that'll allow us to put in the right support to create a second floor space for 8th grade. All right. Let's look at some fun pictures. Okay, so this is the new entrance that Ryan was saying, and myself that are really excited about. This has gone, as you know, to the village, and they have approved it. So this is your new bus entry, sport entry to the building. So using, kind of celebrating the V for Vikings in some of the framing, as well as some of the structure. A nice canopy similar to what has been done at Evergreen and Viking recently. Really kind of trying to create a campus feel among all your buildings. Using the same metal panel that was used over at the high school recently has been performing really well and looks pretty sharp, so we're going to do that. But lots of glass, it'll be nice. No, this is not an illuminated V, but just with the type of glass, it will glow kind of nicely at night, but really be a nice welcoming entrance. So kind of see it from a little bit different angle.
Just real quick,
Yep.
the bus and the car
Yeah,
are
those were backwards.
those are backwards. Our bus entry will be the same as it is right now, so those will just be flip-flopped, but
Yeah,
just
that was our mistake. Good clarification. So then on the left and right is the new addition. So we'll see it. I'm excited to see it. It'll be a great thing to see from the main roads coming in and around the middle school, but there are 2 new stair towers with lots of glass on either end, and then a majority of it is brick, using a combination of 3 different bricks, one that matches the brick on this end of the building to really tie it together, and then a brick colors from the most recent edition in 2005. I really try to, when we do additions, not make them stick out quite like a sore thumb, but really try and pick out little things from here and there around an existing building that really ties it together, as well as, again, the campus and the metal panel, again, used at the high school here, so kind of carrying that through. Again, with another big V, lots of glass at the end of that hallway of 6th, and then the 7th grade on top. Lots of big windows. And yeah, any questions on the exterior?
Actually, I got in some of these areas where there's lots of glass, are they like tinted, or, I mean, what are we doing to help with like the amount of heat or cold, depending on the season in those areas?
So the mechanical systems will take into account that, and while it is a fair amount of glass in comparison to the rest of the solid walls, I think it balances out pretty nicely. But they have added additional heating along the floors in front of the glass to help warm it in the winter, and then again have taken into account any heat gain that would come. It is east-west facing, west and north facing, so it will be a little less than if it was truly all south facing, but all those are taken into account and balanced. So, all right, moving interior. So starting from upper left, that is the new bus entry on the inside. So as Ryan was mentioned, kind of creating this really nice open lobby space for kids to wait, parents to come, really a nice place to gather. We've offered a spot for some branding, logos, some sort of wall graphic, and then as the one below that is that really long hallway. If you scroll in on your PDF, if you have it, you can see all the way down to the commons. One of the art displays that we have right there as you come in, with benches on either side to allow for a little bit of seating. Could be filled with some other soft seating like you have kind of in the Performing Arts Center at the high school or other areas around the district. So then the other two are of the new commons space. So you can kind of see the one on the top, you see the stage, performance area, a little bit of acoustics that we've added, and then the ceiling in a fun shape that mimics a V, so kind of carrying that theme through, really celebrating it, and bringing in some colorful flooring. And the one looking the other way looks towards your kitchen serving area and bringing the brick inside, similar to the high school, how they have it around their commons, creating some pillars, as we couldn't take out all the walls, so we had to keep some structure. So kind of tying the inside with the outside. Questions, comments? All right.
I assume everything's handicap accessible, like, is that's their way to get up onto that stage?
Yes, yep, so the front steps are all the way around, and then there's a ramp right behind this wall. Yep. Good question. So then we have designated green as was the 6th floor, and then blue as being the 7th or 2nd floor. So you can kind of see the windows that we talked about, the little lower lockers, and then that little bit wider hallway, allowing for that flexible learning space and those little breakout areas for students to use during passing, during class time. It'll be nice. It's kind of funny. The teachers, like I said, were kind of hesitant to it, but as we walked through the middle school, almost all the teachers have a desk sitting outside their classroom. I'm like, well, you're kind of doing that already. We're just sort of giving it a home. So I think, like I said, I think they'll be happy. It'll take some learning and adjusting, but it should
Why
be.
were they opposed to it?
I think we know that middle schoolers need supervision.
Yeah.
And so sometimes thinking about students being out there can be a little bit counter to what I tell them, you know, and we work together to do is just being able to supervise them. But I think that with the windows and how we would set that up, I think that it will offer some really good opportunities to slowly start using, you know, and I think it's one of those things we're going to walk really slow with how we're using it. But I think that a lot of them are excited to have it, and I think that they'll do an amazing job with it.
And yeah, it can be a reward for students. We've seen in other districts where if they're not using it appropriately, or they are, you know, that it could be taken away and the furniture could disappear one day, and then they can get it back if they're willing to follow the rules and use it appropriately. So blue then on the 2nd floor, very similar, brings color kind of out into the hallway. There will be some carpet down the middle, and then on the 2nd floor there are a series of skylights. So we're just highlighting those with the accent color. We'll bring a lot of nice light into that floor. Look at the interior classroom real quick. We're keeping them very standard, very neutral. There'll be a little bit of pop of color depending which floor you're on, whether 6th, 7th, or 8th will have a similar floor pattern. As Ryan mentioned, all similar cabinets throughout the school, and yeah, just kind of allowing the teachers to express themselves in their classrooms and how they want to decorate it or enhance it for the students. We usually keep them pretty neutral as far as paint or anything like that. And then a few looks at the 8th grade. So we are relocating some of the maroon lockers that are on the 1st floor up to the 2nd floor to replace the oldest lockers. So it'll be nice. They'll have all nice newer maroon lockers. Again, you can kind of see opening up a couple of the stairwells. They will still have doors at the bottom. We worked hard to think about how the building would be used after hours and sort of security and flow of people. And then a little view of that open collaboration space. So again, just a really nice kind of breathing, opening area for the 8th grade. And that is it.
I have
Anything
a
else?
quick question,
Questions?
if that's okay. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think we had a little bit of community feedback around. I think originally, like, the stage wasn't going to have lights and sound. It sounded like that will now have lights and sound. Awesome.
Absolutely will.
And then I know you mentioned single-user bathrooms and then the girls' locker room. Were there any changes to locker rooms to improve, like, privacy or
Yeah, that's a-
single-user options?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it's kind of small on here, but all of the showers in the girls' bathrooms as well as the boys will be remodeled to be individual stalls. So instead of the gang showers they have today, so they'll have, similar to the high school, the inner will be the shower and then they'll have a changing area. As well as there are 2 locker rooms that will be used by a single student, but they are a non-gendered locker room for any student that may be needing it, and or officials after hours for things like that. So yeah, there's definitely part of our design and consideration. So,
Thank
good
you.
question.
It's all very exciting.
Yeah.
And the big hallway, as you know, a new middle school parent who gets a little lost in there. That's very exciting.
Yes.
Any changes with safety and security? There's still like the 2-stage entry door and everything.
Yeah, so the 2-stage entry project that was done recently,
Yeah.
can't remember, is going to remain the same. And so we will continue to use that. And then during the school day, we'll go with the same process that all doors are locked around the exterior and then they'll enter through that door D.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
thank
thank
you.
you.
Like we should clap for all your hard work.
Yeah, I just to kind of wrap it up, because I know it was a long presentation, and it was long because we have a district leadership team also that meets with Jared with Nexus, and they have a whole team of people. And then Julie's working on the financials with them, and Greg works on the technology with them, and then Brad with the HVAC. So it's just been such a great collaborative effort, on the design teams with our staff. And it's just neat it's actually a great celebration for the district to see how it has all come together to really match our mission vision of our district and what we're about with how the design turned out. So just very proud and want to thank everybody that was involved with that. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item 8.2. Chad Brando will present for approval to tonight's consent agenda, the bid recommendations for the Holmen Middle School HVAC equipment package.
Hello again. Last time of the evening, I think. Just wanted to share this with you all. As you can see, the bid packages were released on the 3rd of August. They were due on 10 August, and they were reviewed on 15 August. We have 5 scopes of work. We had the pumps, the boilers, the chillers, ERVUs, and the air handlers. They were awarded to the low bidder, which was fluid handling for scope 1 and scope 2, and then master building solutions for 3, 4, and 5. We did come in, as you can see, $13,695 over the estimated budget. The reason behind that is when the budget was estimated, we had 2 active boilers that they did not include at that time. Since that time, one is out. We have a temporary boiler in there that we leased for a short term, and the other boiler is the same age as that one that went out. So going through this referendum, we decided that the best thing to do was just to get 4 new boilers instead of 2. So if you do the math, which is not on this paper, if you go to the bid tally sheet, you can see a boiler was about $50,000, so we added 2. And we still came in just $13,000 over budget. And this is funded by ESSER 3, as you can see. If there's any questions?
Any questions? No questions, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 8.3. Executive Director of Finance and Operations, Julie Holmen, will present the 23-24 proposed budget. This item will appear on the 9:25 consent agenda.
Now do you need a stretch break? Chad, I have a lot of impressive slides, so if you want to, just kidding. Good evening. Sorry that I get to follow all of those fun renderings. So this evening I'll be presenting the 23-24 proposed budget. I'm going to start with some of the notes that were in the issue paper because I think it's an important part of the presentation to the public, which will also follow in October when we have our budget hearing. So the development of the proposed budget forecast began with variables approved by the board in January. Insurance renewals, wage agreements, and continued pressures economically have caused the need to increase many budgets above January estimates. In May, the board approved the renewal of our health insurance at 4.7% and dental insurance at 5.99%. That's the increase in the premiums for July 1 of 23 through 24. And that was after several weeks, and actually I think almost 2 months of negotiating the health insurance premium with our carriers. In August, the board approved 4% base wage increases for hourly and administrative employee groups, as well as a 4% total compensation increase for educators, which included steps, lanes, a per cell increase, and the implementation of the educator step placement under Resolution 2. Tonight's proposed budget includes Funds 10, the General Fund, 21, which is the Gift Fund, Fund 27, Special Education, Fund 39, Voter Approved Debt Service, Fund 42, Construction, Fund 46, Long-Term Capital Improvement Trust, Fund 50, School Nutrition, and Fund 80, Community Service. State and local tax levy revenue in the general fund is calculated using the revenue limit formula, is based on a 5-year trend enrollment projection, and that trend model uses the grade progression ratios from the last 5 years and recent trends for 4K and kindergarten to project what future enrollment might look like. The actual 23-24 student membership and revised enrollment projections will be updated after the September count, which happens to be this Friday, September 15th. Since the beginning fund balance is the prior year's final fund balance, what you'll see tonight is the unaudited actuals. I do not anticipate that they will change, but they're considered unaudited until everything is submitted to DPI. Which is coming soon. So for tonight, it's still considered unaudited. A list of assumptions that are included in the general and special education proposed budget include no change in the current level per pupil categorical aid, so that remains at $742 per pupil. That is the categorical aid outside of the revenue limit. $325 per pupil revenue limit increase over last year. Decision of the legislative session that closed in July or so of this year. The previously mentioned base wage increases, the employer expenditures for Wisconsin retirement system and Social Security and Medicare as a percentage of base wage increases, 4.7% for the group health premium and 5.99% for group dental, as well as the remaining ESSER dollars, which expire in 2024, and that balance is $2,060,000. $1.3 million of those ESSER dollars are reserved for HVAC projects, which relates to the $763,000 middle school bid for equipment that Chad Brando just shared with you. So there's still some money reserved in ESSER after we apply the 763. That's also for HVAC, and the balance is currently supporting limited term positions that were hired with ESSER dollars. The general fund estimated revenue budget is for 23-24 is $55.4 million. The general fund expenditure budget for 23-24 is $57.5 million. This is a deficit budget of about $2.1 million. And it was drawing on fund balance reserves for operational expenses. The original budget will be presented at the budget hearing on October 23rd as required by statute and will include the adjustments for third Friday September count this Friday, October 1st equalized property valuation, and the October 15th general aid certification. This will all impact our Fund 10 levy and the aid that receive first general state aid for 23-24. Some of this may be repeated as I go through the DPI summary format. You're familiar with the format that is submitted, that is proposed for districts to use by DPI. And a similar format is used for the publication required that'll go into the La Crosse Tribune. The first 7 lines of the DPI budget format includes the general fund balance. Column 2 is the audited 21-22. Column 3 is the 22-23 unaudited but completed on June 30th of 2023. And the final column is the proposed 23-24 fund balance. Fund balance and the general fund are designated into 5 categories by board action on, as of June 30th of each year. And the total ending estimated fund balance for next June 2024 is $15.3 million. This is an estimate, and it represents 26% of fund balance as a percentage of general fund expenditures. Next in the summary is a subtotal of local sources. The line 10 is the tax revenue, and it includes both the estimated property tax revenue and mobile home tax revenue at $12.5 million. The state revenue limit and equalization aid formulas determine the distribution between state aid and local levy for the general operating budget. Various factors increase and decrease the local levy. The school district's general aid is estimated to increase in 23-24. This is primarily influenced by the revenue limit per member increase of $325 per pupil. An increase in the private school vouchers, particularly grades 9 through 12, do result in an estimated increase that'll be attributed to the general fund levy. Other local revenue includes student activity income, interest income, and other local sources. Those are lines 13, 14, and 15 in the local revenues, with an estimated total local source of revenue for this fiscal year of $13,168,000. Next up is the sources of revenue from school districts within Wisconsin. On line 18, you see payment for services. This is where we record within the accounting the open enrollment revenue for non-resident students attending the School District of Holmen. This may also include payments such as tuition waiver, transportation fees, or other payments for services. The open enrollment transfer for 23-24 is $8,618 for regular education student, up $394 from last year, and $13,470, up $394 from last year for special education tuition. The estimated total revenue is $1.8 million. Next up is the state sources of revenue. Again, to remind you of the assumptions, there is no change in the per pupil categorical aid of $742. That is outside the revenue limit formula. $325 increase to the current level per pupil revenue limit, and then an estimate of a 3% increase in the special education reimbursement rate of approximately 33.3% for 23-24. On line 32, is the general state aid, and it is projected to increase from $33,344,000 this prior year that we just closed to $34,312,000. The 3 major outstanding variables that determine revenue include the October 1 property valuation, the annual third Friday count, and the October 15th aid certification. So again, the levy that I shared on the earlier slide and the general state aid on this slide are 2 that will change after they certify aid on October 15th. And so that'll be reflected in the original budget in October. The total, line 37 includes the per pupil categorical aid of $3,086,000, and the total state sources estimated at $37.8 million. Next up is the federal sources of revenue. You're aware that the last several years with pandemic awards, we have increased our federal sources of revenue significantly. We used to be between 2 and 3%. After this last round of ESSER, $3 is spent out, you will see the federal sources of revenue drop significantly. Federal aid in the general fund, aside from ESSER dollars, is received primarily for title grants 1 through 4. The proposed budget for ESSER is that 2 million I referenced earlier, and the total estimated federal award or federal sources of revenue for 23-24 is $2,352,000. This is an area where we record other financing sources, and historically, we don't have any dollars in this area of the summary. However, presenting it today, the zero looks a little unusual, so I need to explain that. The $151,100 last year revenue was for the sale of our Oak Grove school, and the year prior to that was a required adjusting entry when we had to implement GASB 87 lease liability. So Government Accounting Board required us to make a entry for, in this case, it has to do primarily with our leased property at the Boys and Girls Club, and then our leased agreement for our Xerox multifunction copier machines across the district. So it looks like revenue, but we had to make the exact same offsetting expenditure entry of $356,000 2 years ago. So like I said, typically we do not have revenue in this isolated other financing sources. And so for 23-24, I am budgeting 0. Lastly, we have the subtotal of other revenues. The revenue source can include just various items. It's kind of a catch-all. It has E-rate funding, flex account forfeitures, workers' compensation, insurance dividends, premium refunds, rebates, recycled scrap, or other retired equipment sales. You will notice on line 53, an increase in source 970, refund of disbursement. This is a planned increase in our E-rate revenue. So E-rate is the federal program that helps support connectivity and technology projects. So our executive director of IT, Greg Krieger, has implemented various expenditures that are E-rateable in regards to getting some money back. And so the projection is that there will be some refund to support that connectivity and technology projects in 23-24 in the amount of $200,000. So the total estimate for other revenues in the general fund is $250,000. Total revenues and other finance sources proposed for 23-24 then is $55,425,031. Any questions on revenue for general fund? Otherwise, I'll move on to expenditures.
No questions.
No questions. So lines 59 through 64 include the cost or change of cost in instruction. So this would include salary and benefits increases for instructional staff, including educators, related educational assistants, and co-curricular is also on there under line 63. The estimated subtotal for instruction is $24.5 million. Next represents the total for support services or support sources. This slide represents the summary for support services. It does include on line 70, you see a large increase under business administration. So business administration is not just finance, it also includes transportation and facility services. And so that increase is reflective of the HVAC projects we've talked about using ESSER dollars, because the cost would fall under the $250,000 function within the accounting. So that explains the larger increase for business administration, as well as other projects that were there last year that we've completed now, like Viking chiller and middle school HVAC, air handlers. Thanks, Chad. So the total for support services expenditures is estimated at $21.1 million. Next, we have non-program transactions. This includes the interfund transfer on line 76 for special education, which is not allowed to go into a deficit position. That 6.9 million includes 6.7 for special education and 250,000 for the long-term capital improvement trust fund. And I will talk about that a little more when I get to Fund 46. Line 77 represents the estimated tuition payments to other districts through public school enrollment and private school vouchers. The voucher amount and the open enrollment amount are going up, but overall we are seeing decreases in enrollment numbers, and so currently that's projected to be slightly lower than 22-23. That is another number that will most likely be updated by the original budget after our third Friday counts and reconciliation with our neighboring districts. The total for non-program transactions is almost $11.9 million. Total expenditures in the general fund estimated at $57,556,000. And here is a summary of revenue, expense, and fund balance. You can see on the bottom line, the change in fund balance year on year, which we've talked about many times, and something we really need to keep an eye on that acceleration of decline. This is a chart that is one of our measures on our dashboard that you will see as part of our annual meeting information and is updated every year. This year we added the estimated or unaudited 22-23, and then it is further estimated to have that decline trend at the end of June next year. Any questions on the general fund?
Any questions? I don't think so.
The next ones move a little faster, so. Fund 21 is our special projects fund. This is where we house all of our accounting for our gift accounts and our scholarships. It includes over 100 sub-accounts for Fund 21 in both curricular and co-curricular groups within the district. And this is all of our gifts, donations, and fundraised dollars and associated expenditures. As I said, scholarship funds are also accounted for in 21 if they are scholarships that we directly pay out of our accounts payable. Sometimes we have scholarships that are directly paid by the donor as opposed to the funds flowing through the district and paid by the district. The accounts in 21 are allowed to carry over their balances as of June 30th. And since revenue is quite unpredictable when it comes to gift accounts, the revenue and expense that you see here matches. So after the fiscal year ends, I reconcile all of the individual gift accounts and then rebuild their budgets with their balances, both revenue and expense equaling the same dollar amount. So the total expenditure budget for special projects for 23-24 in our gift account is $994,000. Fund 27 is the special education fund. It is not allowed to go into a deficit at fiscal year end, therefore that interfund transfer from the general fund is required annually and posted as of June 30th. The estimated transfer on line 96 is $6,728,000, and the estimated total revenue budget for Fund 27 is $10,556,000. The expenditure budget matches as it's not allowed to go in deficit position, and this budget has been adjusted for salary and benefits and contracted student placements, and then that interfund transfer allows for the zero fund balance that you see on line 94. Special education expenses, as you can see in each of the 3 years presented, more specifically from 21-22 to 22-23, increased $1 million, which is challenging and significant in 1 year, and something that Jill and her team are working really hard at trying to find some solutions for. We had an increased number of student placements out of district last year, and I know that they're working hard to bring some of those costs down as well. But really challenging situations sometimes, and it is costing more money than we have seen in past years. So when the special education expenses are increased like that, that means the general fund expenses are increased because the interfund transfer has to go up. So working hard to make improvements on those things. Next up is the debt service fund. In Holmen, we have a debt service fund number 39. This is voter-approved debt service through referendum. The proposed debt service revenue for 23-24 is just under $8.4 million. This assumes using fund balance, deferred revenue from last year's debt premium, and new levy to meet the principal and interest payments that are due according to our bond repayment schedule. Some debt defeasance may continue to be applied to maintain a more steady tax rate and provide flexibility for cash flow borrowing and other purposes. And the levy certification in November will depend on the certified equalized valuation and the general state aid certification. The estimated expenditures in the debt fund for 23-24 are $11.6 million. The bottom line of the summary includes the indebtedness at the end of the year. So as of June 30th of 2024, the estimated indebtedness is $59,145,000, and that includes the 2020 refunded principal and interest due on the Prairie View Elementary building bonds, which is almost done, the 2018 high school addition and remodel, and the 2023, last February, capital bonds and notes in the amount of $50 million. That was $50 million of the 74.7 approved by the voters last November. And so just as a reminder, the balance of that for $24.7 million will be bonded for in 2024 to help pay for the remainder of the capital projects that we're working on. The capital projects funds include the 40 funds, and in Holmen we have Fund 42 and Fund 46. Fund 42 is the construction fund, so all revenue and expenses for the 2022 referendum that was approved last November is accounted for in Fund 42. So when we got the proceeds from the bonds and the notes, they were revenue to Fund 42, and as we expend out and pay the contractors and those involved, they're also accounted for in Fund 42. The estimated capital funds revenue budget for 23-24 is $783,000, so that is primarily interest revenue, and then the $250,000 general fund transfer into Fund 46 from Fund 10 that I mentioned earlier. So in regards to Fund 46, which is the Long-Term Capital Improvements Trust Fund, expenditures cannot occur out of there for the first 5 years of the initial deposit. The first deposit was made in June of 2021. So the estimated fund balance out of the total that you see there in fund balance of $23.6 million, $721,000 will be Fund 46 next June. And so we still have to wait to spend out of there, but we're setting aside those dollars to for district's long-term capital improvement plan, which Mr. Brando is still working on revising for us. But not all of our buildings have sinking funds, and although we approved a couple more sinking funds through last November's election, we still have a large section of our original high school that does not have a sinking fund to support those larger capital improvement expenses, and so this can help set aside, and then we can help make some of those improvements that are needed on the oldest part of our high school building sometime in the future. So the estimated balance then for next June in this fund is 26,189,000, 22.9 of that being the construction dollars. Now, I don't know that we're exactly matching the draw schedule that we thought we would with the construction dollars, so that is a flexible dollar amount as far as what will be the balance next June. Next, we have Fund 50, which is the food service. The estimated revenue for 23-24 is $3,745,000. Estimated expenses are $3,775,000. So spending it down just a little bit with an estimated ending fund balance of $1,822,000. This is an area where we try to have at least 3 months' worth of expenses in fund balance, which is best practice. We have more than that right now, and so there is a plan to help spend that down by supporting some of the equipment that's being purchased for some of our new kitchens that are being remodeled and built through the referendum. That's an allowable area for us to use those dollars, so. And then lastly, our community service fund is Fund 80. The estimated revenue through levy is $150,000. The excess or increase in revenue helps us also support a steady mill rate, but then builds a fund balance for expenditures that occur between July 1 and January 1st before we start getting proceeds. So this one is a little bit flexible because we do have an estimated ending fund balance next year of $237,000. This budget has been planned to be about $100,000 a year with the Boys and Girls Club supporting their Sail to Success program. So this helps support an educational director and other personnel and supplies for that program for our resident students in Holmen. But as you can see, in the last couple of years, we haven't quite made it to 100,000. So I continue to build that, and that is their budget that they submitted this year as well. So that one is a little bit flexible in regards to the total revenue needed for 23-24, and we will look at that when we certify the levy for November. Any questions?
Yeah, one question. What is the date that we would be able to start using the long-term capital fund?
So we,
'Cause I know it has to sit there for 5
first transfer
years.
was 21, and we have to wait 5 years,
So
so 26.
20,
How much again? 200?
250. We started with like 10,000, and then 250 was last year, and it's proposed at 250. So it'll give us a total fund balance next June. Sorry, I just said it, 721,000. Give or take interest.
what time of year do you come to the board with the proposed amount approval for that?
Today and during the original budget, because it's a budgeted revenue. So October.
Okay.
Do you foresee us doing 250 every year?
I would have said more prior to our most recent fund balance, needing fund balance support. I would have proposed more. But that's because I know of some very near future roof replacement required at the high school and the estimated cost. So,
Very near within the next 3 years?
you got your fingers crossed, Chad? Mm-hmm, yeah.
In other words, there's already a plan for the expense of that.
We have not drafted an RFP and gone out for bid for that project, but it far exceeds the estimated fund balance in Fund 46 for next year. So, and one of the old roofs. So, that's why I would normally propose more.
Okay, any other questions? No other questions?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item 8.4. Last but not least. Executive Director of Student Services, Jill Mason, will now present the recommendation of the contract for speech and language services. This item will appear on the 9:25 consent agenda.
All right. When we have some of our specialists go on leave in the district, we have to contract services because we aren't able to find a sub through our teachers on call or something similar. So in this case, we have a need for a contracted service for speech and language pathologist for a couple of months this fall. And one of the individuals that we're going to work with has worked with us in the past, and then another one will be joining her in November. So we'll try to have a full-time position at that time. So we're trying to piece it together a little bit. So that's what I'm here to ask for.
All right, any questions? All right, thank you. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. For the consent agenda, the board has been furnished with background materials on each item or has discussed it at a previous meeting. These will be acted upon with one vote without discussion. Would any board member like an item pulled out of the consent agenda to be discussed on or voted separately? I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as provided.
So moved.
Motion by Chris,
Second.
second by Maggie. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion passes. All right, moving on to the board debrief. I will call upon board members and ask you to present any comments or committee reports you have. And tonight we'll start with Chris.
No committee reports. Just thanks to all the district staff for all the hard work they've put into the referendum updates. It's an exciting time for us. I mean, it's still obviously the whole school year away, but you can see a lot of work has gone into that. So I'm sure the community will be excited to see some updates, even though there's no shovels in the ground or anything like that. So thanks for your hard work on that. Appreciate it.
Okay, Lindsay.
No updates for me tonight, thanks.
All right, Maggie.
I'll just echo, yeah, thanks for your thoughtful planning and presenting that to us tonight. It's evident that a lot of thought and work has gone into all of those plans, and it's really exciting.
Okay, Bridget.
Yeah, same. It is absolutely incredible to know all of the behind the scenes work that goes on around these projects, and then also putting the budget together, Julie. It is, I have so much appreciation being on this board and hearing these, yes, long presentations, but such valuable information. So I just want everyone to know that you're so appreciated.
Okay, Barb.
No updates from me either, but also appreciation and especially to Julie for all the work you do for our budget.
Okay, and I don't have any additional updates tonight either. So moving on to the board meeting. Oh, Crystal. Sorry, Crystal.
No, I was
Crystal.
you're all good. I'm pretty sure we're all tired. But I'd like just to
I love the truth. I like how
No,
she
it's
speaks the truth.
all good. Hey, no, I'll just echo a quick thank you to like everybody and all the staff who put in that information for the referendum. I guess you guys are making changes when I graduate, so there's that. Things are gonna be different now, but yeah, that's all.
Okay, thanks. All right, our upcoming board meeting schedule, September 13th, on just in 2 days, on Wednesday, we have our first board workshop with finance. It's at 5 p.m. here in the boardroom. Then on September 25th, we have our first committee meeting. It's a policy committee meeting at 5 p.m., followed by a board meeting that day at 7 p.m. Board members are then being invited to the WASB Fall Regional Meeting at GET on October 5th. Then on October 9th is another board meeting, and then October 23rd is the budget hearing, followed by the annual meeting, followed by a board meeting. So busy upcoming schedule.
I forgot to mention, we have homecoming week next week. It's kind of a big deal in that. And so we will have the parade on Friday afternoon like we always do. it's the 22nd. And then also the Holmen Area Foundation and Holmen Booster is working in partnership to help put on our first annual block party, which will be before the football game on that Friday evening. So anyone here at the table who wants to come help out, let me know. In that, we're looking for some helping hands. But it'll be a great community event, so we hope everyone comes to join us for our big cookout and entertainment in that before the game. So, sorry.
That's okay. No,
I
what
forgot
time
to
is,
do
what time
that.
is the parade?
It usually starts around 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock, yeah. And it starts around Viking Elementary and goes down to Main Street and to the middle school. So, yes.
Okay, good. All right, is there any other business that needs to come before the board at this time? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting. All right, there was a first and a second to adjourn the meeting at 8:40. Motion carried. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Motion passes.